Using a 19mm socket, let's go ahead and remove our lug nuts. With the lug nuts removed, remove your wheel, set that aside. We're going to start by using a small pick. I'm going to remove our rubber cap on our brake bleeder screw here. If you don't have the rubber cap, not a big issue. I want to go ahead and loosen that. And we're going to use a 10mm socket to go ahead and do so. And when you loosen that, you should see some brake fluid start to come out of that. There we go. And we're just going to lightly snug that down. Now any of the brake fluid that leaked out, just wipe that up. Using a 14mm socket, we're going to go ahead and remove our 2 caliper bolts. Using a small pry bar, go ahead and work your caliper off of the caliper bracket. And use our hanger tool here. Just going to go ahead and hang this up out of the way. Go ahead and move our brake pads. Use a 14mm socket. We're going to loosen the caliper bracket bolt here and then one up top. Just got to remove these 2 bolts. Remove our caliper bracket. We now want to go ahead and remove our brake rotor. Our particular vehicle has 2 screws here securing the rotor to the hub. If your vehicle does not have these, it is not critical to the operation of your vehicle. They're just installed from the factory to hold the rotor to the hub. And use our impact driver here to loosen those screws. Then we just transfer over to a regular Phillips head screwdriver and we'll go ahead and remove those screws. With the screws removed, should be able to go ahead and remove the rotor. But ours is stuck on there, so we're going to go ahead and use a hammer to go ahead and hit the back side of the rotor, work this off the hub. Then we're going to go ahead and use our bolts here to drive in. These bolts are going to go through the brake rotor and go up against the face of the wheel hub. That is going to push this brake rotor up and off. Now, as this is coming off, you want to look in the back side, make sure that the emergency brake shoes aren't getting hung up. If they are, you just got to reach in back there with a pair of pliers or a pry tool and just work those loose. All right. I'm going to use a pick. I'm just going to remove our little rubber plug here, our access plug. I'm going to swap it over to the new rotor. And install our brake rotor. Did apply some anti-seize compound to the hub face. Go ahead and put on our set screws and snug these down. Now, if you don't have these screws, it's okay. It's not important to the operation of the brakes. It just helps hold the brake rotor in place while you assemble your brake caliper and pads. Go ahead and snug this down. Once you have that all set, you want to go ahead and make sure that your brake rotor isn't dragging on your emergency brake shoes on the back side. We're pretty good. Now, working on our caliper bracket here, we have our 2 slider pins here. We can see that this one here rotates and it goes in and out, and it's very, very sticky. So we're going to pull that out. Okay. I'm going to pull this rubber boot off. You can use a small pick. I want to separate the rubber boot from the slider. Be very, very careful. You do not want to puncture that rubber boot. Once you get the boot off, do an inspection for any tears, any holes or anything like that. That's going to allow moisture to get inside and cause the slider to seize inside. We're able to get this to at least move a little bit, so we're going to keep working it back and forth, keep on applying some rust penetrant to it, and eventually work this out of the caliper bracket. There we go. We now have that loose. Okay, remove our slider pin. I'm going to pop off our rubber boot. Use your screwdriver. You can go ahead and pop off your shims here. The slider pin holes, we want to go ahead and clean those. So we're going to have a bristle brush right here. So we'll just continue to work this in and out. Next, we want to take our slider pins and we want to clean these up. Soak them down with some solvent. Give them a wipe down. Do a visual inspection, look for any rust buildup, any scaly stuff. At that point there, you want to go ahead and use a small bristle brush, try and clean that up. All right, go ahead and repeat for the other side. All right, go ahead and take your wire brush and we're going to clean where our pad sliders go, or pad shims. Inspect for a large amount of rust buildup. If there's scaly stuff on there, you want to go ahead, maybe use a file or something to clean that up. Make sure it's nice and smooth. Repeat for the other side. Now our caliper has some rust buildup on there. And what's going to happen is if I go to put this on, this isn't going to fit flush on this bracket. Using a flat file, we're simply going to work this back and forth and take down any of the rusty nuggets that are on there. Now we're going to put a little bit of grease inside of our slider pin hole here. Go ahead and install our rubber boot. Once that's in, grab your slider pin. I'm going to put a thin coat of grease on here. Go ahead and work this in and just push it in, and the rubber boot will pop onto the slider pin here like so. Moves are nice and easy. Go ahead and repeat for the other side. Now we're going to apply a thin coat of grease right where our pad slides are going to go. And take that. Go ahead and press these into place. Once that's on, go ahead and repeat for the other side. I'm going to go to our brake caliper here, and we want to push this piston into the caliper unit itself. Previously we had loosened our brake bleeder screw, and this is why we're going to do it. Open this up, just crack it open a little bit. That's going to relieve some of our fluid pressure as we compress the piston in. You want to have a catch can or some rags underneath. And as you push this piston in, you'll see the fluid come out. Once that piston is all the way in, go ahead and tighten down that bleeder screw. And you'll see here that the piston is now recessed inside. Now on the inside of our caliper, we have an anti-rattle clip right here. Has little tabs on the top. We're simply just going to twist this guy out and we're going to replace it. Do a visual inspection for any rust buildup or anything on there. Ours looks pretty clean. So now I'm going to go ahead and install our new anti-rattle clip. And simply slide these tabs up inside. The tabs up top will hold it in place. And go ahead and set that caliper aside. Go ahead and install our caliper bracket. Get our bolts installed. Well, let's go ahead and snug those bolts down. Get this set up into place. Get our lower bolt installed. And get our upper bolt started and get that threaded in as far as you can. Then we'll go ahead and snug those down. And torque down our caliper bracket bolts to 41 foot-pounds. And torque down our caliper slide pin bolts to 17 foot-pounds. Then wipe down our bleeder screw, put a rubber cap on. Now what you want to do is hop into the vehicle, pump up the brakes, get the brakes to compress, open up the hood and check your brake fluid and add as necessary. You want to go ahead and repeat for the other side. Let's go ahead and install your wheel. Go ahead and get our lug nuts started here all by hand. Once we get these all started, we'll go ahead and snug them down. Go ahead and torque down the lug nuts to 80 foot-pounds.